Tēnā koutou katoa. Welcome everyone to today's meeting of the Policy and Performance Committee, our first meeting of this triennium. So thank you all for your attendance. Good to have a full house here with us. If I continue attention to item 1, which is the opening karakia, please join with me. Tuia te mana aki aki, rārangahia te mana rangatira. Kia tipu, kia puawai, e rupu nawai o te awa kairangi. He katiaki ki te whenua, he a rangataio, he a rangatangata, umie, huie, taikie. Thank you. Right, item 2. I've received no apologies and I believe we are all here. Thank you. Does anyone want to note an apology for early departure? No, fantastic. So on to our next item on the agenda, which is public comment. I believe we have none. And that looks to still be the case. So we'll proceed to item 4, which is conflict of interest declarations. I call on members to declare any conflicts of interest they may have in relation to an item on the agenda. But if I can just start with myself, as a Director of Urban Plus, I'd like to note a conflict in terms of item 5A, which is the statement of corporate intent. So I'll step aside and hand the chair to Deputy Chair Parkin for that item. And just to note that for item 6, which is the 6-monthly update on Urban Plus, I don't see a conflict in relation to that one, so I will stay here. Any other conflicts of interest? Councillor Lewis. Thank you. Just a note for the meeting, Councillor Lewis's mic wasn't recorded and she noted her role as a board member of Seaview Marina Limited. Now, before we proceed with the rest of the agenda, I'd like to note a precedence of business. I want to change the order so that we can best support our guests who are here as efficiently as possible, but also so that we discuss current performance before we move on to discussing future performance in terms of the statement of intent. So, pursuant to Standing Order 10.4, I called precedence of business to the following items. So first we'll start with the Urban Plus Limited 6-monthly report and then move on to the Urban Plus Limited Group Statement of Intent. That's first of all item 6, then back to item 5A. Then we'll address Seaview Marina first by item 7, which is their 6-monthly report, and then on to item 5B, which is their draft statement of intent. And then finally, in terms of a precedence, the Hutt Valley Chamber of Commerce 6-monthly report, which is item 8. And then we'll address the remaining items in order there on the agenda. Thank you. So first of all, item 6, which is Urban Plus Limited Group 6-monthly report to 31st of December, which is on page 98 of your agenda. And I'd just like to welcome Darren Newth, Financial Accounting Manager for Hutt City Council, and also, I need to put my glasses on. I don't need my glasses because they're not here yet. So just, Darren, if I can hand over to you to speak to the report.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So I'll take the report as being read. UPL, they achieved a $2.2 million deficit for tax, which is $1.3 million variance to budget. This is mainly due to the delays in the sale of Tawhai Street development. There have also been some adjustments made to property values and prices within the projections, and this is the response to market conditions. This will have an impact on the June 26 year-end result. More details are attached as Appendix 1 to this report. And I was hoping that the other would be here to answer any questions, but if in doubt, I've got Yulang here who has more knowledge around the in-depth of UPL. Thank you.
There's a technical problem. He was intending to join online, but I just wonder then, having gone through that lengthy reordering of the business, whether we, we might reorder it again and switch out Seaview Marina for Urban Plus. How's that, everybody? Okay, thanks, Darren. Just have to gather our thoughts on the page on the agenda. Page 126. So welcome, Tim, our Chief Executive. I've got here Peter Steele might be here, but he's online. Welcome, Peter. So Darren, would you like to introduce this report, please?
Thank you, Chair. So again, I'll take this report as being read. Seaview Marina achieved a $117,000 surplus before tax through to the period 31 December 25. This is 23K above budget, which is a good result. More details are attached in Appendix 1 to this report. And I'll hand over to Tim. Anything else to say, or Peter?
Kia ora koutou, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to present. I've nothing further to add other than just to note that the marina largely is a business based on a level of discretionary income, and it's a difficult climate out there at the moment, especially with cost of living and also cost of compliance, insurance, biosecurity. There has been a bit of a paradigm shift in cost ownership of vessels, and that's having quite a big impact on people evaluating their ownership status. So, that's sort of an overarching theme that we're dealing with currently.
Thank you. And Peter, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I think for financial performance, as Tim has indicated, it's been good under challenging circumstances, and we're just really working to understand and engage with our community, both the wider community and the boat owners, as to in terms of how the marina can offer service to those groups. So yes.
Thank you. I'll just hand it over to members. Do you have any questions? Councillor Dyer.
Thank you. Just wondering if you could provide any more details around the breakwater acquisition and kind of where we're at now. Obviously, this is a bit old, but it's sort of saying now we're not doing this till 26, 27. Would just be good to know a bit more.
Yes, what?
Sorry, maybe if you could just explain really briefly what the breakwater acquisition is as well for some of the new members around the table.
Fair enough, Councillor Dyer. The breakwater, in simple terms, is the big pile of rocks that surrounds the marina. So currently that is not under Seaview Marina control, which means the one thing that is protecting millions of dollars of not only council asset but private assets doesn't have a certain future. It currently sits on council books, and there is a resolution from quite some time ago from council to agree in principle to transfer that ownership. It's an incredibly legally complex process, which needs essentially just needs time to navigate. And at the moment, there are some other priorities in both organisations, and consequently that's why we've ended up with this time frame.
A question from me. Just following on from that a little bit, but also a broader question. Following the severe weather events we've had recently, I know it's outside of this reporting period, but can you just give us a quick update on the state of the breakwater? Was there any damage, but also the marina in general?
The breakwater itself is an incredibly resilient structure. So there is no visible damage to the breakwater. And of course, it's been there for 30 plus years now and probably been through some more significant events than we had 3 weeks ago. As far as the marina is concerned, we're actually still assessing the level of damage. It is not worth filing an insurance claim. But in all honesty, I think the marina fared quite well. The biggest issue we've had is a piece of e-pier broke free. And so that was one significant event, but all in all, the marina fared quite well.
And just a further follow-up on that one, the privately owned vessels in the marina, were they fairly well protected given the severity of the storm and the waves coming in from the south?
You're probably asking the wrong guy. Of course, as marina staff, we always want our customers to be in a state of hyper readiness for those type of events, and sometimes we don't reach that level that we're looking for. So it's all about education and or continued education and communications. Again, all in all, fairly well. Half a dozen shredded sails, 2 boats broken free from the moorings, but given some context, the winds we had were 10 knots stronger than hurricane force. So that puts it into perspective, you know, that was essentially a hurricane event. And so the marina has come through that very well.
Thank you, that's excellent news. Any further questions from members? Seeing there's none, I'll like to move the recommendations on the agenda paper on page 126, that the committee receives and notes the half-yearly report from Seaview Marina Limited as attached to Appendix 1 of the report. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Ravi, thank you very much. Is there any debate? Seeing as there's none, I'll put the motion. Those in favour say aye. Those against, nay or no. I declare that carried. Thank you. Thank you. Right, we'll proceed. Well, it's kind of proceed, but slip backwards in your agenda papers to page 35, which is the Seaview Marina draft statement of intent. Mr. Newith, you want to introduce the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. So the SOI is attached to Appendix 1 to this report. It covers the period of the 3-year period from 26-27 through to 28-29. There's also a 10-year projection that's attached to Appendix 2 to the report. The projections do include a planned dividend for the periods, which is $100,000 per year, but that is still subject to final board approvals at the time. The SOI has been drafted to reflect the priorities that were approved by Council in their meeting on the 21st of January 26, and there's been no significant changes to those priorities. Elected members do have the opportunity to provide feedback before the 1st of May, and then the final SOI will be submitted to Council prior to the end of June 26. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Sorry, I was going to also mention this too, that the Seaview Marina had a successful tender round. This is for their pier refurbishments. So that's reflected in the current SOI. The round came in lower than expected, but we have included also some project management costs. So that was quite a good result.
Nothing further to add on this one, Chair.
Thank you. And Peter, anything to add from yourself?
No, I think that's been well summed up.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. That's good to hear about the tender round as well. Let's hand it over to members if there's any questions on the draft statement of intent. Appears to be none, and I've got none, so let's move to the recommendations. I won't read them out because they're quite lengthy. We'll just have them up on the screen. Just noting this is a recommendation through to Council. So I'll move the recommendations as you see in the report and up on the screen. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Jung. Any debate? Appears to be none, so I'll then put that recommendation. Those in favour, aye. Those against, no. Declare that carried. Thank you all. Right. I'm just looking around. We seem to have Daniel on the live stream, so we'll move back to the item 6, which is on page 98, if I remember correctly. So it's the Urban Plus Limited 6-monthly report. Darren, it's with you again.
Thank you, Chair. So hopefully I'll get this right, exactly the same as I said before. So I'll take the report as being read. Urban Plus achieved a $2.2 million deficit before tax, which was 1.3 million variance to budget. This is mainly due to the delays in the sale of Tawhai Street development. There have also been adjustments made to property sale prices, and this is in response to market conditions. This will have an impact on the June 26 forecast results. More details are attached in Appendix 1 to this report. Hand over to you, Dan.
Thank you.
I'd just like to welcome Daniel Moriarty, who's the Chief Executive of Urban Plus. Daniel, anything to add?
Thank you. Hopefully you can all hear me. My screen is, I'm unable to share my screen, but hopefully you can hear me well.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Yeah, just to flow on from Darren's comments, it has been a challenging 6 months. The market, the Wellington region and the nationwide property market that's dropped 30% has significant effect on our business cases and on our sales. So it hasn't been through lack of trying or through delivery. It's really just the market speaking back to us. So what we had planned for sales and clearing our projects out has been somewhat problematic. So they have been somewhat sluggish, but we continue to keep positive and look to sell out of those projects and move on from them.
Thank you. Any member have a question? Yes, I've got Councillor Shaw.
Thanks, Daniel. Just in regards to the Tawhai Street development, how many units remain unsold at this point?
So we have 19 in total homes there of differing typologies. We have one fully settled, one in a conditional status, but the rest of them remain on the market at the moment.
Councillor Mitchell.
Kia ora, Dan. Just picking up on a statement, it's on page 4 of your report, that our Cambridge Terrace project delivered construction rates on par with those pre-COVID. I just wondered if you could elaborate on that a bit. Does that mean that construction costs have come down quite a lot?
Thank you, Councillor. The comment there is simply that we have done incredibly well with our procurement and our delivery on Cambridge Terrace. So we're actually building at the same rates as what we were delivering pre-COVID. So that's 4 or 5, almost 6 years ago. With the rate of construction, pricing and increases, we're actually quite proud to actually be back in that level. So it demonstrates our delivery from a construction perspective and efficiency. So what we were experiencing back in 2019, 2020, rate-wise, that's also what we're doing at the moment. So that won't be for all projects, but just the size and scale and the efficiencies and the timing of our tender process and designs, I think we have positioned that project incredibly well.
Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Daniel. Can see that there's lots of work happening, lots of work done, the 30 homes in Ipuni and the 19 homes in Stokes Valley, but the 2.2 deficit is quite significant to what was budgeted for, and It is primarily the housing market, which is around 27 to 30%. I think you've got it has fallen in that you've noted. If the housing market continues like it is, what is the next year or two going to look like for you?
Thank you, Councillor. It's really just being a bit more strategic. We are, instead of aiming for the large scale sites, we're really just cutting down and spreading our risk on smaller scale sites and, accumulatively the same amount of profits and delivery, but just spreading that risk over the next couple of years on smaller sites. We will pick up every now and again a scale one, but it's really just adjusting our feasibilities and our expected sale pricing to really just pull that down and being a lot more conservative. That 30% of the market property value drop, that really is significant, and that has had a great dent. There's also an oversaturation of 2-bedroom townhouses in the market, especially on the valley floor and over in Wainuiomata. So we'll be recalibrating our typologies and what we're putting out to the market as well. So watch the space there. But yeah, just being very careful and cautious as to what we'll be delivering, but also what else there is out there in the market, and being conservative on those sales pricings.
Councillor Dyer?
Yeah, just following along from Deputy Mayor Brown's questioning. The previous time the 6-monthly report came to us, the deficit was explained as timing of sales, and the one before that, and the one before that. It's really hard to tell from these sort of high-level statements whether UPL is actually making profit on the developments it's doing. I'm sure at a board level they're seeing that, but there's a bit of a gap here where we're kind of looking at this going, $1.3 million budget variance is pretty high without much of an explanation other than the property market isn't doing well, which we obviously understand. Looking at the cash flow statements as well, we were budgeting a $10 million positive net cash flow, but actually we're going to be negative 100. Like, it's $11 million less cash than we're expecting in a 6-month period. So I guess this is probably more a question for Jenny. Like, we're obviously, who's sort of doing the assurance bit that should be kind of in between council and UPL to make sure we're actually making good decisions, we're actually making profit from the developments? I wouldn't expect us to get down to the development by development level, though that would be useful. But is there someone that kind of sits in between that does look at these things and kind of poke and probe a bit more than we can in these forums?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Tricky question. Yeah, there is commercial sensitivity around the detail by development. And, we've got Darren, our financial accounting manager, and Yulang, our senior financial accountant, that work very closely with UPL on the day-to-day forecasting and budgeting and really getting into the detail of that. At the end of the day, the big decisions and the strategic direction are being set by the board. And, the directors are responsible for setting that broader piece, and they will also see that more commercially sensitive information. I suppose with the SOI, which is the next paper we're going to look at, is that bigger picture of where it's going. And that's where your opportunity is to really set some expectations to UPL in terms of, you'll see those forecasts actually showing deficits for all the future 10 years, which is not an ideal position. And so maybe there's some feedback you'd like to provide to UPL around, ahead of the SOI being finalised, that they're looking more closely at those projected profits. It's obviously a tough market, as Chief Executive has explained. So, I suppose you've also got to take a long-term picture around this and see the overall benefits that UPL's provided and the outcomes that have been achieved in the longer term as well. And there's some risk taking in there. So, yeah, hopefully that helps.
Mayor Laban?
The conundrum, I suppose, Daniel, is the expectation that we can build houses and make a profit versus the provision of low-cost housing for people who are struggling. And I can only assume that $10 million, Jenny, that would have been set in a very different environment financially than we are today.
Yeah, I suppose the market has been challenging. and maybe we've been a bit hopeful in the past as well that things are going to move around. It is what it is, and the board's got to, work in that context and do the best that it can to achieve the outcomes. There's obviously some really good achievements happening through UPL and has in the longer term. So, that cash flow monitoring is happening. The good news is that also UPL's got, council's given UPL a funding line of $43 million, and they're not fully utilising that. So, they're managing their cash flows well, I'd say, overall.
Supplementary. Daniel, how relevant do you think our bylaws and regulations are around what we allow developers to do, and do they need a rethink?
Wow. Got one foot in the social camp and one foot in the financial camp there. I think council really listens to the development community. I think they've put in the right levers, and no doubt if it's wrong, you'll hear from developers, not so much me, but from other sort of coin-operated developers. I think we are good for the moment, but it's just a very tough market out there, and there's no signs of it really picking up. Really good for buyers, lots of opportunity, lots of variety. But for the development community, I'd say that, it's pretty pressured at the moment. And you might be seeing that by the local developers are branching out into the other districts and cities and elsewhere, because it might just be a bit tough financially for them at the moment. But it's just the property cycle. We're in a really tough moment at the moment, but previously and hopefully in the future, it'll be somewhat different and a bit more positive.
Councillor Tonga Grant.
Thank you, Chair. It's been really great to see that all of the work around wellbeing with the community gardens and the support and the culture designs that have gone into these houses. I guess my question is, how will we protect that and ensure that social outcomes are remain protected given the financial pressures and having to be a little bit more conservative in the way that you spend?
Thank you. I'll just note that's probably a question which could be addressed more fully in relation to our plans for the future in the next item. But if there's a comment under this one from one of those present. Daniel, perhaps?
We've got both the social and the financial drivers, but the UPL's built to meet the needs and the gaps in the community that aren't really fulfilled by other developers. So our social content and the other objectives are always at our forefront rather than firstly for money and profit. That's a driver of course, absolutely, but we really do put priority elsewhere within our objectives rather than that first profit-making motive. And that's how UPL's been designed, and that's how we maintain all the way through our years.
Any further questions? If not, I'll direct your attention to the recommendations. Oh, well, it's a simple one. I'll just go ahead and move it. That the committee receives the half-yearly report from Urban Plus Limited Group attached as Appendix 1 to the report. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lewis, thank you. I'll put the motion, debate.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in, just despite my questioning about the finances, I do really want to commend UPL, Dan and the team, for what is a really challenging market at the moment. We know it's tough out there, and you're navigating some really tricky things at the same time. Lots of developments are finishing. And while we don't have any expectation that UPL will return a profit or a dividend to the council, we do expect it to pay its own way. Really excited about the new property developments in here. There's lots that's just finishing or close to completion. Particularly excited about the land leasing opportunities that I mentioned and thinking outside new funding lines for UPL. And also great to see that we're growing the portfolio through the Hollard Grove development, because I know the growing of the portfolio has been a contentious point for the last few years. And also really great to see that the Cambridge Terrace development alongside KO has also completed there. So yeah, just really wanted to acknowledge Dan and the team. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Brown.
Thank you. I want to know, well done on the last 6 months. The conundrum that UPL is in at the moment is something that we knew could happen. UPL has been driven really hard by council in the statement of intent. They're very hard and objective outcomes with social housing. In the social housing, UPL only cut down the profit right down to the WIC, and the private developments help fund that. But what's been caught now is the housing market has slowed down. However, within that, UPL have managed to deliver on all of the outcomes on social housing, the most unique in New Zealand of having partnerships and being able to get them successful and build the houses around the community and potentially have Riverlink as well. But this conundrum, this deficit is solely based on getting caught in the housing market. And that's always the question for council, that housing markets is always a long game, not a short game. So I commend you on all the work you've done, but I acknowledge that the deficit was always could have happened when we were driving those really tight profits to get the social housing up.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and appears to be no further debate, so I will put the motion. Oh, I have put it, so I'll just call for the vote now. All those in favour say aye. Against, no. Declare that carried. Now, as I've declared a conflict on item 5, the UPL Group draft statement of intent, I'll remove myself from the meeting and Councillor Parkin will assume the chair.
Kia ora, thank you, Chair. So we're up to item 5A, page 9 of the agenda, and we already have Daniel and Darren at the table. Daniel, I'll let you take over for a sec.
Thank you, Chair. I really just, it's our UPL submission of our draft statement of intent. Just to note that the UPL board have been presented this draft document in late February, and we'll be meeting again in April for the board to formally confirm that over the time. My thanks go to the officers and council in regards to the statement of expectations, and this is our reply to that. More or less carries on from the last statement of expectations and draft statement of intent from the previous financial year. And it's really just carrying on doing what we're doing, just being mindful of that financial environment and where the markets are at. Yeah, I think that's really just where we're at the moment.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from members? Councillor Ravi and then Edwards.
Thank you.
Your mic's not on, Councillor.
Thank you. This is regarding point 3 on page 19. Just wondering if UPL has data on the demand for the kind of housing for the elderly, with the growing elderly population in the hut. Do we have data for the next 3 years? And if yes, how prepared is UPL to meet this demand? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Chair. We're very much driven. One key indicator that we do have is our wait list, and also the inquiry lines that we do get from the elderly in terms of housing. It's a little bit subdued over the recent months, but ultimately the general trend is that it is growing. We have a wait list of it's about 100 to 140 applicants at the moment. We do note that our vacancies are reducing in terms of frequency, which means people are healthier, living longer, or not moving into alternative accommodation after their time at UPL. In terms of the wider data, we don't have a significant amount of that, mainly because our wait list is there and it's steadily increasing. So that's the indicator of where we're at.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards.
Yeah, Councillor Ravi and I are on a similar wavelength. Having just heard that from you, Daniel, and it's our SOI, so I should, I guess, know this, but why are we changing the percentage, performance measure, reducing the percentage of total housing units for low-income elderly to 70% from 80%? We keep reading in the media that more and more people are heading into retirement without any savings at all, and it's a big issue nationally. What could you give us a wee bit of a comment on that?
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. The basis behind that is that it's a performance measure that UPL has never met. Back in, I think, 2017 or 18, UPL purchased 27 units in one block down in Petone. The majority, and I'll say about 95% of those tenancies were carried over and they were non-compliant for the elderly. So the tenancies within that portfolio, they're not moving and not changing, and they are, by what I mean by non-compliant is that they are non-65 plus, so they might be, for example, a 48-year-old that's in employment, but only until that tenancy terminates for whatever reason do we reinstigate or put in compliant 65-year-old tenancies within that development. Our other portfolios, as I say, the tenancies currently they're not moving, and some have been inherited over the years that have been in there for the 18 years that UPL has been in existence. So that threshold of 80%, we are reducing that down by way of reality that it's just a measure that hasn't been met, but the reality is that our tenancies, inherited or otherwise, just aren't moving, aren't changing. We do have the view that as soon as a tenancy does become available or a unit does become available, 65 plus compliant tenancies go in there. That's just the strategy and the way forward that we always do. It's just waiting for those other non-compliant tenancies to move out of that unit.
Perfect, thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, kia ora, Daniel. Firstly, a question based on your statement of financial performance. It shows that in this year, the personnel expenses forecast is just over $1 million. Next year, it's almost 1.4. That's an increase of about 35%. It might be a matter of timing, I guess, but I just wondered if you could speak to that change.
Timing and looking to potentially take on another resource for upcoming developments. Obviously, with the development program, the outlying years is, for want of a better term, it's crystal ball gazing, because you can't identify sites right now what we will be developing in the future. We have to have a plug project for those outlying years. So it's really just looking forward to the future and having the aspiration of taking more developments on board, which means requiring more resourcing.
Thank you. My next question might be for our own officers. It's to do with, there's reference in here to integrating well-beings into performing metrics for UPL. And we know that central government is playing this great game of ping pong, which is back in the court of taking well-beings out of the Local Government Act, at least. I just wonder how insulated UPL is as a CCO in terms of having to reflect that change in central government legislation.
Through you, Chair, sorry, over there. So we're having discussions with UPL on that. I mean, this is a draft. Those goalposts are actually moving on those. So, I mean, we'll bring it back to you, obviously, for a final decision, but Dan and I will be continuing conversations around and how they're reflected before it comes back for final.
Councillor Dyer.
Yeah, just sort of following on from my previous questions on the previous paper, obviously this statement of intents has us signing off a $2.4 million deficit, a $2.4 million deficit the next year, 1.3, the next year with 2.6, all deficits. I don't know what the answer is, but it'd be really good if between now and when the final comes back to us, if officers could work with UPL just to kind of provide some assurance that that's a good way of doing things. Like my reading, not being an accountant, is it's not. It just sees our equity just sort of going down over from what 4.5 to about 39 million over this period of time. So yeah, don't expect the answers today, but it'd be really useful if we could get that when it comes back to us.
Thank you. Yes, we will do some further work on that and provide some assurance in the next paper. Thanks.
Any further questions? No. With that, I move that recommendations 1 to 6 on page 9 of the agenda are moved. Could we have that up on the board? I will bring your attention to point 6. I believe that the 5 in brackets has been changed. It was something different in our agenda, but I don't propose reading that out. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Edwards. And any debate? Deputy Mayor Brown.
Thank you. And I just want to note again in your draft that you've got some really strong outcomes that you're wishing to achieve again, Daniel, and noting the questions around the elderly. There is more and more elderly coming through that don't have the savings and don't own their homes, and they are unable to afford the $600 rentals. So this Urban Plus is very closely aligned with homelessness. They sit at 99% occupancy of their 190 rentals just for elderly, but also in the partnerships are built many houses where it's families who have been homeless, and the partnerships are really strong with community housing providers. On top of that, they are doing the building. They're building a Papakainga in Wainuiomata, creating 8 homes for a start, working in with government funding as well. So there are many outcomes that are being achieved. So I don't want to take away from all these amazing outcomes that are being done, and you're proposing to do them again, but acknowledging the housing market at the minute is having a detriment, and that's partly because we keep the profit really low so that community housing providers are able to take on that capital. So acknowledging the complexity and congratulate you again for wanting to do it again. So thank you.
Mayor Laban.
Thank you, Chair. There's no separation, in my view, between UPL and Hutt City Council in servicing people in our community, residents in our community that live on the margins. It is indeed a conundrum. On the one hand, we have an expectation that UPL will operate a profit, but at the same time, we're asking them to provide low-cost, affordable housing for a population that, for my recollection of the pre-election report, 16,000 people over 65 in the Lower Hutt. Just in reference, Councillor Ravi, to the suggestion you raised. And when I talk about no separation, we have to be prepared to take a hard look at ourselves. How relevant are the policies and programs we have in place, and is it a good fit for the challenges that lie ahead? And I can understand that we make decisions in environments and in economic circumstances that are sometimes not as fluid and not as easy to be anticipated. So nobody in the Hutt is providing the level of housing, providing a level of comfort and humanity that Urban Plus are doing. And, you know, I'm not sure ourselves whether the rules and things that we have in place are as relevant as they could be, given the changing environment we're in for everybody. And I don't think it's a matter of us just sitting back expecting UPL to get the numbers right. It's something that we need to do together in a genuine partnership. But well done to Daniel and the team. I had the experience of visiting a number of the developments with Daniel a little while ago, and I could tell from the work that they do and the passion that they discharge their responsibilities, that they're making a significant difference in our community. Thank you.
With that said, thank you. I now put the motion which has been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. I declare that motion carried. And Councillor Salinger, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, Councillor Parkin. Continuing our merry way around the agenda, we're now heading down to item 8, which is the Hutt Valley Chamber of Commerce 6-monthly report to 31st of December, page 136, I believe. And I'd like to welcome, just checking with my glasses, yes, Mark Skelly, who's the board chair, and Patrick McGibbon, chief executive. Welcome. And we have Claire Falk, our business partnership lead, to speak to the report. Thank you, Claire.
On page 136, you will see the regular half-yearly report from the Hutt Valley Chamber of Commerce. Highlights are from page 137. The council and the chamber enjoy a good relationship. The council is particularly focused on supporting businesses through Te Wai, Takamori, Aotearoa, Kairangi. And through the partnership with the chamber, we're able to amplify our reach to businesses in the wider Hutt Valley. If you have any questions on the report, I'm sure Patrick and Mark will be happy to take questions.
First of all, do you have any comments, Mr. McGibbon? Mark?
As always, Chair.
Yep.
Firstly, thank you again for the opportunity. This will be my last hurrah at the council table. So I'm very, very grateful for the support that I've had over the years from everybody in the council, including councillors and the council officers over 4.5 years. So thank you very much for that. Look, we'll take the report as read. I guess we just wanted to stress we do continue to be an important cog in the connection between our businesses across the Hutt Valley, particularly in Hutt City, whether that be through events or communications or other activity on a more personal level with businesses. And we continue to work really hard, our small team works really hard to support the business community in their engagement, not only with the council, but with government and with each other, importantly, through connections and information, which enables them to really be as successful as they possibly can. We continue to be very, very grateful for the support from the Hutt City Council in enabling us to spread our work beyond our membership and beyond the day-to-day community that we have here in the Hutt Valley, which is an amazing business community. So thank you.
Mr. Skelly, anything to add?
Thank you. Look, Patrick summed it up, and as mentioned in previous speakers this morning, and you're all aware of the difficult environment that we are operating in right now. And so one of the things we're working through at the moment as a chamber and as a business community is that we're trying to help grow our economy, grow our business sector, create more jobs, create more independence, create fundamentally more rates income for our city as a result of our businesses thriving, whilst also balancing that very real environment of businesses that, whilst are feeling more confident in the medium term, and our recent business confidence surveys are showing that, feeling more confident about the medium future is quite different to the reality of the business situation and environment right now. And we're seeing more businesses close. We're seeing more businesses that have got to the end of their tether. They've held on, they've held on, and they've held on, and they're hoping for things to get better, but are not. So there's a very real environment out there that we're trying to help support. And so we're really grateful for the work and partnership with the council and helping us do that work. Manufacturing is a huge part of our city and our economy, and so I just want to touch briefly on that. One of the highlights you'll see in the report from Patrick is the Manufacturing and Innovation Expo that we ran nearly 12 months ago, and we are deep into the work right now for the second one expo, which is in, I want to say May?
19th of May.
Thank you. And it's a huge opportunity to get our manufacturers together, to help them connect, to grow, expand, bring in new ideas. For those of you who may not be aware, new to the council, the manufacturing sector is a $1 billion economy in the Hutt Valley, so it's a significant piece of our economy. We've done a lot of work in that in the last year. We've done our Skills for Mahi program, working with a number of young people in our schools to connect them with the manufacturing environment. We've run a manufacturing passport program where we connected 40 young people into 60 young people into the manufacturing program. We're developing a much stronger relationship with Welltec Whitireia in terms of just working really closely to make sure that the skills that we need for that sector are both here and growing and looking to the future. And I guess I just want to point out that the work we do in what is a really, really small team is a really wide reach. So as Claire pointed out, there's the dual issues we have as a city right now. One is our CBD, and we don't need to talk about that. But there's also a much, much bigger impact that isn't necessarily seen, which is the wider impact of the business community for those businesses outside of our CBD. And just there's a lot going on. So we're pretty busy. And as Patrick mentioned, this is the last report in person to this group. He departs very, very shortly, but we are deep in the process of finding his successor. And whilst he'll be very hard to replace, I'm sure we'll have another amazing CEO to fill his shoes and carry on the good work. Thank you.
Thank you all. Now just open it up for questions from our members. Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Patrick and Claire. A wonderful report, and always it's exciting reading what the Chamber's up to, and you are in challenging times. My question is around just how you've been in bullet point H on 139, the Seaview Business Association, taking that over and looking after all the businesses in Seaview. That's a diverse community around there compared to what you're working with in Lower Hutt, different altogether. So how's all that going? You've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, it's different than the city centre, yes, absolutely. It's not particularly different than the rest of the community, say in Taita or Wingate. So there's lots of similar businesses that absolutely work together and operate together and collaborate together across the region. We've had some good successes with the Seaview Business Association, so we've supported them particularly with the Port Road pipeline renewal. There was quite an early implementation of some road closures, which we supported the business community on to discuss with the council how we could improve that. And the council came to the party and improved the traffic flow for a period of time, recognising they had to make closures of the road, of course, to implement that big piece of infrastructure work. We recently got a small group of businesses together to talk about some of the issues particularly around flooding, but wider issues such as insurance costs and the way in which some of the LIM reports are created that seem to cause some issues for businesses. And so we've written to Mayor Laban on those, and I believe that letter has been passed on to the council officers for some comment. So, yeah.
Any further questions? So we'll move on to the motion before us. Rather than move it, I've just been alerted to Councillor Dyer having an amendment he'd like incorporated. So perhaps you'd like to move the motion together with your amendment to start the debate.
Did Ken want to speak first? I sent it through in case I need it, but if Ken was wanting to jump in.
Okay, Mayor Laban.
It's not a question, but I do want to take this opportunity, Patrick, to acknowledge and recognise your service to Lower Hutt. As you're well aware, Patrick, 39% of our rates come from the business sector, and as Mark alluded to, it's $1 billion business, so it's an enormous area of responsibility that you've had custodian of over the last 5 years. Trying to create an innovative and creative environment where our businesses can grow and thrive is a very subjective thing. They're very easy words to say, but they are very challenging and difficult to implement. Your 35 to 35 document was groundbreaking in terms of its clarity and its vision. The business function that I attended and spoke at Bulcott, to me, was an absolute reflection of your influence and impact in the business community at that level. And of course, many of us sitting around the table attended a very successful Business Awards, which is a community endorsement of everything that you hold close to in terms of what's important, bringing companies, businesses together, networking, all of those things which are crucial to us to live in a very successful and business savvy environment. I'm just disappointed as a new mayor that we're not going to get the opportunity to work closer together for longer, because obviously, to me, the indications are that you've done an outstanding job, and I just want to acknowledge that on behalf of the city. Wish you all the very best. Thank you, mate, for everything that you've done during your tenure here, and we wish you and your family all the very best for the endeavours that lie ahead for you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Laban. Councillor Dye, would you like to move that?
Yeah, I'm happy
Motion
to
with
move
amendment?
an additional recommendation that the committee acknowledge the contribution of Patrick McKibben as outgoing Chief Executive of the Hutt Valley Chamber of Commerce. Seconded by Mayor Laban, I reckon. And yeah, just wanted to speak really briefly to it. Patrick, thank you so much for your nearly 5-year tenure at the Chamber. It's perfectly coincided with some pretty significant economic headwinds, as well as navigating COVID. And I'm not saying that the two are coincidental, but they do coincide. So I just really want to acknowledge your tireless advocacy for the business community, not just here in Lower Hutt, but the Hutt Valley, through some really challenging times. You've built a real, genuine, connected network around the valley, personally meeting with so many businesses. You've grown the Chamber's voice, the reach, you've strengthened the partnership with Hutt City Council, and you've left the organisation in a really strong position with some really challenging challenges coming down the line, particularly around Riverlink, but also some really exciting opportunities. So I know whoever's next to fill the really big shoes will do a great job, but yeah, just really wanted to acknowledge your work over the last 5 years. Thank you, Patrick.
Mayor Laban, did I take you as a seconder for that motion? Thank you. Before I invite others, I'd just like to speak a bit to this myself. As someone who's been close to the Chamber for so many years, I won't mention the number of years, but haven't had much to do with Patrick in recent times. But I think no one can escape the profile of the Chamber, how it's grown and the impact that it's having. I guess my observation of the history when I first came in contact with the Chamber, it was really scrapping for survival financially and for members and so on. It got through that hurdle, started to grow in confidence and deliver more, but really that has accelerated under your leadership, Patrick. So I do thank you for that. It's really changed the shape, I believe, of and reputation of the business sector here just by the profile the Chamber now has. So I congratulate you for that. Councillor Lewis? No?
Thank you. Yes, I'd like to support our previous speakers in their congratulations to you, Patrick, in representing the council in the previous 2 terms on at many functions, the Business Awards and things like that. You were always the face taking the Hutt business sector out to those private events that we attended together, and you networked just amazingly. So I just want to thank you for all the hard work you put in, and wish you well for the next stage of your life, and I think it's a great decision. Thank you so much.
Councillor Ravi?
Just wanted to say thank you so much, Patrick, because during my campaign, when I met with so many businesses, every single one of the businesses that I met with were very appreciative of your leadership, the openness in which you connected with them, and willingness to work with them and bringing them on board. So that was very heartening to hear that, and also my interactions with you in the last few months has been amazing. So thank you for all the work that you've done for the Hutt and your team as well. Thank you.
Councillor Shaw?
Thank you. Seems a little bit silly talking to Patrick and he's sitting right next to me. But Yeah, on a couple of fronts. I just want to, this is an excellent report, and they always are. Really appreciate the work that you do for the business community. Your newsletters are really appreciated. I just want to focus on a couple of points, and that's Te Wai Takamori, Te Awa Karangi. It's just easily the biggest project we've had here. In the business disruption group, which is a really important one. So really appreciate your work. And equally important is the seminars and forums that you've done to upskill our young people so that they can have a job in this major project in their own place. So Patrick, best wishes for your retirement, and best wishes for your new appointment, because I hope he's as good as Patrick. He or she is as good as as good as Patrick. Thank you very much for the great work you do.
Thank you. Appears to be no further debate, so I'll put the motion. Do we need it up on screen again? Perhaps we will, just for anybody watching on live stream. Thank you. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against no. I declare that carried. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And great report as well. You know, we talked about Patrick, but it's amazing the amount of work you've got underway. Cheers. Right, thank you for your patience. And now we're really back on the agenda as it was kind of intended. And I think the next item is item 5C, the Public Places and Trading in Public Places Bylaw Statutory Reviews, which are on page 63. I would also, before we get into further discussion, note the track changes version of the bylaw, which is now attached to the appendix at the back of your papers. I think around about page 253. If you want to follow on that version, you may find it easier. So, just invite Sam White, our policy advisor, to speak to the report, and with him we have Brad Cato, our Chief Legal Officer. Is that the right title, Brad? Yeah. Thank you.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you, Chair. So the Public Places Bylaw was last reviewed in 2016. It's due for its statutory review by September this year. As part of this review, along with various minor changes, we are proposing to bring in, as you say, the Trading in Public Places Bylaw into the Public Places Bylaw. The Public Places Bylaw deals with things like obstructions in public places, littering, nuisance and safety-related behaviours. And the Trading in Public Places Bylaw places requirements on mobile shops and stalls and other such temporary businesses for them to operate in those same public spaces in Lower Hutt. So this proposed amalgamation is really to reduce regulatory overlap and improve council efficiency. We're seeking your feedback on the proposed changes contained within that statement of proposal, and seeking your approval for that statement of proposal to go out for formal consultation after council approval on the 24th of this month. And then finally, we'll be guided by this committee's decision as well as the Democratic Services team on whether a hearing subcommittee is required following the formal consultation. And then we'll be reporting back to you on the 7th of July. Kia ora. Oh, do you have comments, Brad?
Mr. Chairperson, we had a few comments through on the bylaw prior to the meeting, which thank you. It's always helpful to get that in advance, so we're not having to answer them on the fly. So I'm just proposing to briefly deal with them, some of them. There are a couple that may need a bit more thought, and I'm proposing to add a resolution that officers will do a little bit more work and come back with answers before this is approved by council, noting that this is being recommended up to council.
Thank you.
So if I can briefly go through some of the things that we've had through. The first one was just noting we'd made a change to clause 14.1, and that's to do with essentially getting permission for things like protests or public gatherings. And we'd taken out the requirement to get permission from council, but then, excuse me, we had something about we still have reference to the conditions of council on the approval underneath. So thank you for picking that up, and we will reinstate what was there previously in the version that comes up to council. So that's just a something that we'll do in the version of the bylaw that's going to council. There was a question. Sorry,
Brad. Just
yes.
While you're on that, can I just get a clarification? So does that mean you'll reinsert the words without the prior written permission of council?
That's correct. And when
14.1?
I just sort of looked at it, it probably needs a little bit more of a rework as well, because we've changed what we're talking about a little bit from the old bylaw to the new bylaw. So the old bylaw was about people getting approval before they had big public gatherings. We've now sort of said you won't interfere with anyone's right to walk about freely, and we wouldn't sort of envisage that you'd come to council and say, I want to interfere with someone's right to walk about freely. So I think we just need to slightly tweak that provision a little bit before we bring it back.
Yes, while we're on that one, Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, and I think it does need a bit more thinking, because I think in terms of obstructing other people's ability to get around town, that's exactly what happens when you have a big protest or march. And certainly in Wellington City, for example, they're giving permission for such things on a fairly regular basis for significant political protests. So I think that we don't want to disallow it, and we do want to give permission sometimes, as long as the permission is sought. Thank you.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, I agree.
Thank you. Carry on.
The next thing was just the word projection and what that means. Is it a projection out onto a public space, or is it like a movie projection on a building? And all this language comes from, or a lot of this language comes from a slightly ancient model bylaw now. I don't know if any of you remember as far back as 1999, but you know, things were a little different then. And that was a bit of a joke. That's not. I don't think that's that far back. But obviously, some things have changed. So we'll just clarify that projection does mean something coming out onto the public space, as opposed to we're not trying to ban movie projections. The next one was about one I haven't read for a while, about the driving of cattle. And again, I kind of read through it, and I think it does work. But again, let's let officers just sit down and work through and make sure it does work, and we'll make sure of that before it came to council. There was another question on stalls and how they sort of work for markets, and does every stall holder need this sort of permission? The answer that's come through from the team there, as far as businesses go, there is a legislative requirement for them to hold individual permits. We would confirm with the relevant operational team as to how individual and event market permits are implemented and enforced, and make changes if appropriate. So that's just another thing we'll look into. And then there's a question of fire and whether this should prohibit fire in public places. And again, something that we'll go away and just check that we've got all our bases covered, because the situation with fire changed quite dramatically with the new fire and emergency legislation that came out. So we did have to actually remove a lot of our previous fire controls from our bylaws, because FENS took over a lot in that space. But that's not to say that as sort of owner or person in control that we can't do something, and we do already prohibit fires in reserves in our reserve bylaw. We have a little bit of control over nuisance and safety stuff in our prevention of fire. I can't even remember the word of it, sorry, off the top of my head. There's prevention of nuisance and something from fires, so we have a specific bylaw on it. But we'll just make sure it all works, given the question, and bring it back to you. So that's the list I have in front of me, but happy to.
Thank you, Brad, and thank you, Councillor Mitchell, who I believe who brought up those very useful thoughts for deliberation. And I assume I'd like to offer you the chance to speak to or if you have any further questions, Councillor Mitchell, then there's a number of other hands going up
Not a further question, but maybe a request that you talk to Bruce Spedding from from the Eastbourne Community Board. He's raised these issues around fire in particular, and he's had explanations, and he's right that there are gaps there. You have to get a permit from our council to light a fire in a reserve. However, his concerns mostly relate to the beaches around Eastbourne Way, which are not classified as reserves. So there's nothing covering the public places that aren't reserves currently, other than a requirement to get a permit from FENS during the fire season. So there are gaps there that he was trying to piece together. So just a request, if you could talk to him about it, what his particular concerns are, because they're possibly different out there than they are for the rest of the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. Now I've got Deputy Mayor Brown and Councillor Ravi and Councillor Lewis.
I've got a question around removing the temporary living, the Freedom, which is aimed at Freedom campers. And I think you're removing it so it doesn't overly disadvantage homelessness. I'm assuming. Is that the case? And how are we going to ensure that this bylaw manages behaviour in public spaces, which I think is the whole premise of the change in the bylaw, without disadvantaging people experiencing homelessness?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your question, Councillor. The provision, which I think related without specifically saying to freedom camping, can't be enforced legally to move on homeless people. So that's why it's been removed. So there is no imperative to do that.
Councillor Ravi.
This is just a question on page 274 with regards to street musicians. Does that include busking as well? If it does, then maybe we may want to just add that word, because there's a lot of people who would be busking. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, we can look at that and make it clearer.
Thank you. And I've got Councillor Lewis.
Thank you. Just make way through this water. The term council considers appropriate in each case, and I'm talking about the areas zoning for, well, we're not zoned. I'm assuming it's anywhere people can set up a mobile shop, hawking and, stalls. And I'm comparing that to, say, elections or areas we have cordoned off for signage around the city. Does this mean exactly as it said, the officers consider using discretion, a hawker can go anywhere in the city? Or somebody, a stall or anything? We're not zoning?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we're not sure how operationally they administer that. That's probably something the likes of environmental health and transport give permission for. I'm not sure what sort of criteria they look at when they administer that, but we can get an answer to that probably pretty easily.
Councillor Mitchell.
I did have one more request that I'm happy for you to go away and think about and when it comes back, consider, which is to do with verandas. Interestingly, what's written in here about verandas kind of talks about how a veranda should be built, which feels like it probably belongs in the district plan and not in here. I did think to have a look around at what some other councils had in their public places bylaws, and Wellington City Council had a useful clause in theirs, which was basically a requirement to keep verandas above public places in a good state of repair. And that's certainly been an issue in my neighbourhood where that hasn't happened and things were literally falling onto the footpath in front of or behind pedestrians as they walked under verandas. Also just thinking ahead to our kind of streetscape work around the centre of the city and trying to make that attractive place, I think that's potentially an issue that we might like some powers on. So if we could just go away and consider that one. Wellington City Council have a really good example in their bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I also noted that when it talks about foundations underneath, it does talk about securing and maintaining them when they're on or abutting a public place. So we could probably have something similar to do with verandas as well. Kind of seems to make sense.
Councillor Dyer.
I trust the point I'm going to raise is the same one that Councillor Mitchell did, so if it is to start nodding and I'll stop talking. It's regarding the bulls being led on an adequate harness. Should that just be reordered so that it's captured in it? Yeah, cool. That's what I thought. So my second question is, there's obviously a new regulatory standards bill coming out, and we don't know quite yet the timing for it, but there is a backstop, which is 24 hours after we're proposing to sign this off. Has there been any thinking towards the bill and the requirements on bylaws, and any impacts that may have, or are we just sort of thinking this comes into play 24 hours before, so don't need to worry about it?
Mr. Chair, we can look into that. No, we haven't considered it yet.
Well, thank you, everyone. Any further questions? Right, well, let's proceed on. And thank you for all those insightful questions and matters that are being raised. We look forward to seeing some responses come through to the full council for incorporation. And with that in mind, Vanessa has crafted some changes to the recommendations, which you'll see on your screen there. Addition of item 5, which is to direct officers to undertake further work on the matters raised and report back to council at its meeting on 24th of March 2026 with recommendations. And then just adding in on recommendation 6, agrees to the draft statement of proposal attached to the minutes subject to the amendments made during the meeting. Any concern with those? Well, I'll move those as they're written on the screen. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Barrett. Gee, my temporary mental blockage. Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded. Is there any debate? Councillor Mitchell.
Ooh, my own microphone is working. Just to acknowledge the officers and thank you for taking on feedback. These bylaws generally don't come up for review terribly often, about once a decade, once they've been there for a while. And this one, as you would have looked at it and seen, covers a lot of ground. I think we'll hear from a lot of people with one interest in a particular part of it. But I think the more that we can get in there and right as far as we are concerned before we go out and consult, it'll certainly help the public to provoke their thinking as well. And I'm sure we will get some feedback on it, so it may need to go to a hearing later on, but we'll just wait and see. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Brown.
Yeah, I just want to add to Councillor Mitchell and thank the officers for the amount of work that's been put into this. I think this is one, because it's in public spaces, that's going to get a lot of feedback at consultation stage, and it's finding that right of balance of not being over-regulated, but enabling the community to try things different, but having the minimum rules in place to keep it all safe. So thank you for your work.
Appears to be no further debate. I'll just add my thanks to the officers. I think it was a great move to consolidate the two bylaws into one. It just makes things simpler going forward. With that said, I'll then put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Against no. Declare that carried. Thank you very much. So on to item 9 on the agenda, which is the quarterly performance report from 1 October to 31st of December 2005, and that's on page 180 of the agenda. I invite Darren Cohen, I believe, or do we have Richard Hardy, and Sophie as well, I think. Is that correct? No? Oh, that's sad to hear. Would you like to speak to the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Kia ora. This report provides an overview of Council's performance and activities for the second quarter of the financial year from 1 October to 31 December 2025. It summarises the progress against the long-term plan and annual plan, Te Karangi, our Maori strategy and the Chief Executive's strategic focus area. During the quarter, Council marked a number of key milestones, including the inaugural Council meeting, an induction, the adoption of the 24-25 annual report, the launch of Team Mana Karangi customer portal, and the Summer and Hut program. Overall, the organisational performance improved this quarter. Of the 55 KPIs reported quarterly, 45 met their targets, which is a notable improvement compared to the same period last year. Delivery of the major programs and projects also remain largely on track, with no projects reporting red status. Happy to take any questions, and directors are also available to take questions as well. Thank you.
Nothing to add, Richard. I'm taking by your demeanour. Thank you. So I'll move along to questions then. I've got Deputy Mayor Brown, Councillor Ravi, and Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you for the report. It's good to see the KPIs have significantly increased up to 83%, is it 82%? What, in your view, do you think are the main drivers for that? That's significantly gone up on the last.
For you, Chair. Thank you for your question. We saw a massive increase in our free water spaces this quarter compared to last year, and that was highly around the water supply, the stormwater and the wastewater. So we've just seen a large increase in Wellington Waters around those. When you compare them to last quarter, especially with the water supply, they've also increased their meeting their targets. Stormwater's always met their targets by quite each quarter, and wastewater's also improved their targets each quarter.
Councillor Ravi.
This is just a question on building consents and the compliance certificates, where we have not met the target for some of the complex commercial applications and some of those sort of applications. Is there a specific, apart from the 20-day standard period for these kind of complicated consent requests, is there a different time frame that we could set or make it more clearer that it is going to take a longer time instead of not meeting the target?
Through you, Chair. Thanks, Councillor. No, we've got 20 days. So we need to be able to manage the complex and the more straightforward and get them all over the line within those 20 days. So.
Okay, thank you. And just, sorry, just another question on page 227. We have reported that we had a drop in numbers, visitor numbers at Walton Ash and Wainui Hub. Is that because of the summer break in this quarter? I'm assuming that it's because of the summer break, or?
The targets for hubs are actually adjusted to reflect the visitation we expect for each season, so it's not because of that. They're just operational fluctuations. One of the causes at Walton Ash was that we've been short-staffed up there over that quarter. We run a very lean staffing model, and sometimes that catches us out. So the Walton Ash has not been open all of the hours that it was scheduled to due to that, and that's part of the reason.
Thank you.
Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you. Just a couple from me. The first one you may not be able to answer, but if you could bring back an answer, that would be fine. It's to do with the water ones. There was a very long-standing non-compliance, which was to do with exposure of chlorine from memory close to the water treatment plant, that it just wasn't exposed for a long enough period of time. It sat there for quarter after quarter after a quarter not being met. So I wonder if that issue has been resolved. I'm assuming you might not know the answer, but...
For you, Chair. No, sorry, I don't know the answer, but I can definitely reach out to Wellington Water and get an answer for you.
Thank you. And my other question is regarding the shed paths and cycleways target. It's on page 225. Just noting that most of the other measures in this report that have a cumulative total over a year, the target for quarter two is half of that total, noting that we're halfway through the year. This one here has an annual target of 5 kilometres, but our target for the quarter, which was met, was 0 kilometres. I was just wondering why the target was set as 0 for that one. Just beneath there, you can see in the measure for footpaths exactly what I was saying, that the target for quarter two was half of the annual target.
Through you, Chair. So the target, yes, because it's an annual target, it's just a year-end measure, and given, in this case, Te Pūrahorenuku is the project at play here. So once all of that's completed and the final pieces of micromobility, they will be added in, which will be in the next quarter. But yeah, reflected once they've had practical completion and safety sign-off in one go.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess my question is why it's treated differently actually to the other ones, because also footpath renewals is an annual target, but we haven't set the target as 0 for the middle of the year.
Through you, Chair, we can look at that and make sure they're consistent.
Councillor Ravi, just noting your microphone's still on.
Sorry.
I got Councillor Dyer, then Deputy Mayor Brown.
Yeah, just on the same page, it's got the third one down. So this is page 225. Order of contracts says we've done 12 out of 12, actual 12 out of 12 target. But the page before has the contract audit compliance as a graph, which shows the target at 95%, not 12 out of 12, and it shows the current period we've only hit 95%. But the next page looks like we've hit 100%. So just wondering, are they different things, or can it be tidied up?
Through you, Chair. So I think that's rounded up. Given there's only 12, it's hard to get to 95%, but we've actually done the whole annual audit program already, all 12. So we've actually achieved for the whole year.
Yeah, but the result says we've only achieved 95, but 12 out of 12 is 100%. So the graph's just
rounding error.
And then I had a second question on page 235 around the capital delivery year to date. Not sure if it's the appropriate time to ask it, but if not, maybe officers come back to us. But the explanation there is that we're quite significantly below our targets. And the rationale is that we're expecting a lot more performance because they're very big projects. We're expecting a lot more progress fully towards the end of quarter three, which is the quarter we're in now. Are we sort of on target to make up the deficit from this quarter? And if we can get an answer now, that'd be useful. But if not, if you come back to us, would be great.
Can I assist you there? So, yep, you can see year to date in December we'd completed capital investment of $58 million, but the total budget, revised budget, is $245 million. So, you know, a lot to do in the remaining years. Quarter three, over that summer period, there's usually a lot of work happening, particularly in the transport area. We've obviously had that nasty weather event just 3 weeks ago, which has really caused a whole lot of flow-on impacts. So that's we'll be doing some work over the next quarter just to reforecast our position. We're expecting that we'll come back to you with a lower capital delivery for the year, also higher operating costs relating to all that cleanup work related to the storm. So our operating results are showing, you know, quite favourable, $3 million favourable variance, and we don't know exactly where the storm costs have landed at this point, but we expect the next quarter results are going to be shrinking that quite considerably.
Deputy Mayor Brown.
I just have a similar question, but I read it slightly differently, that the capital delivery is slightly behind, and it's, to me, I read that it's due to resourcing constraints. A broad question is, are we confident that we've got the sufficient delivery capacity for the next 12 to 18 months?
I'll start and then hand over to John. In terms of Wellington Water's got a big share of that delivery. There's about $100 million from memory, and they've given us confidence that they're going to be delivering to that program. We are catching up with them every month to find out how they're tracking and so on, but there is a lot of work to happen over the second half of the financial year. So yeah, confidence in part of it, but if I can hand over to John and maybe Andrew if they'd like to talk to the other elements. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny, and through you, Chair. So there are some challenges with delivering the capital program at the moment. So in the assets assets area, resourcing has been quite a big problem. We are now fully resourced, and the focus had been on renewals and obviously Petone Hub. So with that changing, that will be the focus will shift on to sort of Dowson and War Memorial over the coming months. In terms of the transport renewals program, we have had to pause some projects given the disruption. So even if they, are 4 or 5 kilometres away from the CBD as a feeder road, we've had to readjust a number of those projects, and we'll have to reschedule, so they won't all get done this year. So we'll update councillors in the next month about how that lands, because we've got through till the end of March to do all of those renewals with the weather. But the weather has played a problem as well with that, not only with the storms, but with the inclement summer season that we've had so far. So that has had quite a big problem. Te Port Horonuku will be finished and all paid for in terms of capital expenditure before the end of the year, which is a real positive because that was originally going to be next year. In terms of the Queen, we're all aware of the Queens and High intersection being closed. So, a chunk of that expenditure will fall into this year and the rest early into next year, because that'll be done before Christmas. Which is our intersection to pay for, basically. So that's progressing onwards. And then the other elements of Riverlink, as we know, will be further down, as well as IAF expenditure going through to Te Akiwa.
I can probably just also comment on Parks and Reserves. John has already mentioned some of the reasons that are impacting their work program as well, but also I think other priority items that are outside of capital delivery. We have a small Parks and Reserves team, and their time is often taken up by other things that take them away from capital delivery. The storm will be in this quarter. The storm will be a significant impact. You'll see too, they've had a number of projects that have had to go back for a review and rescoping due to factors that have changed since they were budgeted for. And a really good example of that is Hugh Sinclair Park in terms of drainage. So some of the things that they're having to consider now. There's also a significant underspend for Parks and Reserves around a group of buildings that were earmarked for divestment or demolition in year 1 of the LTP, and it now looks like that if that happens, it's likely to be year 3 of the LTP at the soonest.
Any further questions? Councillor Edwards.
A couple of really quick ones. I thought we were in a bit of a hole with our swimming pool revenue, but I'm looking at some graphs on page 229, and one of the highlights is all 6 council pools meet their visitor targets. This is to December 2025. Was the big fall off, Andrea, January, February, was it?
So there's a number of things going on there with the pools. You might remember that last year we adjusted the way we report against the KPI for pools. So the KPI hasn't changed, but we adjusted how we report in terms of the targets, because we had a previous way of reporting that wasn't ideal, where summer pools, if they were closed, they were accounted as not achieve their target, and we failed the target every time. So we made an adjustment to make sure that summer pools were only counted when they were open. So if they're closed, they're considered achieved. But also the adjustment was with Te Nainai opening, the targets needed to shift to show the amount of patronage that might shift from Huia to Te Nainai. And in reality, I actually think we won't have a really good understanding of demand until Huia opens again in a week or so. And we've got all of our pools back in the network. There's probably a little bit of shift of people, but also there are probably some people who stopped going to the pools over that time who may come back. So I think maybe 6 months from now, we might have a better idea of whether our targets are, what's the demand and whether our targets are right. One of the other things though, the summer pools had a really good start to the season. The weather was good at the start of the season, so the summer pools went really well. Unfortunately, it hasn't carried through with the weather, and they will be under for the whole season. Huia has got a reduced target because only a small part of the pool is open, so a big loss of revenue, but a small target, and it hit its small target. Te Nainai and Stokes Valley did have a better quarter, so that was good. They did have a better quarter. The other thing to note though is that all attendance is not equal, in that what you pay when you come in, you count as a person, but you might be paying to use the pool, you might be paying for a swimming lesson, you might be attending an event. And so one of the things that was particularly hard hit was Learn to Swim, which is one of our probably highest cost activities. And so the attendance and the revenue can fluctuate due to that as well.
Thank you very much for that. Good explanation. And seeing as John mentioned Tupura Horonuku being paid for and finished by the end of June, will it finish at the same time as Te Ara Tupua and we're not up for any, there was a cost deadline there?
Through you, Chair, we are scheduled to finish a little bit ahead. Exact timing TBC, but we are leading in terms of that side of the harbour. We'll give you as soon as we're given. There's a few other weather events potentially in the forecast around the place at the moment. When we're slightly closer to where we're hoping to be, we'll give you a confirmed opening date. But that will be that's not far away.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. You stole both of my questions. So are there any other questions from other members? Thank you. If not, let's move to the recommendations. And I'll move that the committee receives and notes the information and notes the quarterly performance report to from 1 October to 31st of December 2025, attached as Appendix 1 to the report. Do I have a seconder, please? I've got Councillor Parkin there. Thank you. Any debate? If not, I'll just make a comment. I heard a few murmurs that it was a good report. That was going to be my comment, that very comprehensive list of achievements in there. So I felt quite proud of what the council achieved over the quarter. And thank you, officers, for the comprehensive nature of the information we've received there. Any other comments? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour, aye. Against, no. Declare that carried. Thank you. If I've got this correct, I'm shuffling pages with this one. Item 10, next, the Policy and Performance Committee Forward Work Programme on page 250. Do any members have any questions on the Forward Work Programme for our committee? Seems to be not, so I'll move that the committee receives and notes the Forward Work Programme for 2026 attached as Appendix 1 to the memorandum. Do I have a seconder? Mayor Laban, thank you. Any debate? I'll put the motion. Those in favour, aye. Against, no. Declare that carried. Thank you. Item 11, questions. I've received no questions. So we can move on to item 12, which is our closing karakia. Please join in with me. Unahia, 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 e te uru tapu nui, kia wātia, kia mama, te nako, te tinana, te waira, e te aru takatu, koira e rongo, whakahiria aki ki runga, kia wātia, eira, kua wātia, ho, by Marie. Thank you very much. I declare the meeting closed.